everyone, and happy Monday. We have a planner page to do. I can't believe it's the second Monday in September. Goodness me, the first one sort of passed me by. I didn't notice it was September, but now I have. So we have these two really lovely birds, which are from Small Victories by Johanna Basford. And I'm going to do one today and one tomorrow. I thought it would just make sense to do them separately. I'm not necessarily going to match them, I don't think, but I haven't got a proper plan yet. You know me, just doing it as we go along. So I'm going to start with the top one. As you can see, I've zoomed into this one. I've got my Holbein pencils. Now, I realise that many of you don't have Holbein, and these are a luxurious brand, which I'm very lucky to have. But I'm just choosing my first colour as we go. But I figure that you might be interested to see how it goes down, whether they're good value for money, all those sorts of things. I'm struggling to find the colour I want. I think I've put it in the wrong place. Is that it there? No. I'm trying to find the khaki. There it is. Here it is. I'm going to use the khaki colour, which is sort of greeny, yellowy brown for the base of my branch. I know it's quite pale. That's okay. I'm going to build up some colours. Now, I figure that if you don't have them, you might want to know how well they go down, what they're like to use, and I'll tell you that a little bit about them in a minute. And also, I have done some comparison charts with the Holbeins and some of the more popular brands, so you can find the nearest colours in a brand that you do have. And also, I mean, you can of course always just make it up, but excuse me. If you do have a set of pencils and you'd like to know the equivalent colours, then let me know and I'll see if I can come up with a chart. Obviously I have to have the same pencils in order to do that, but I can have a go. I don't mind doing them. Give me something a bit different to think about to do. So and all those comparison charts are on my Ko-fi shop. They're all free. It's a shop. I mean, you can pay what you want, so they're free if that's, you know, anyone can use them. I'm sort of like, I didn't want people to miss out if they couldn't afford to buy them, so I've just made them free. And you know, some people give a little, some people give a lot, most people don't, and that's absolutely fair. This is burnt umber. Now, I always use the Chagall sharpener with my black widows. No, I do actually. With my Holbeins, I find, now the Holbeins are quite soft. So I'm going to do the edge with this. So the Holbeins are quite soft pencil. They're not as soft as a Prisma in the sense that they don't break as easily as a Prisma, but they do blend nicely. They're obviously expensive. Now, a lot of people like them because of the pastel range, and some people just buy the pastel range. But if you like the pastel colours, but you're not so worried about having a soft pencil, then the Brut Funa Macaron and the Castle Art Pastel Tint are both a copy of the pastel range in the Holbein, and both of those sets have the same colours in them. So if you're just looking for colour, we're not thinking at the moment about how well it goes down on the paper, then those are much, much cheaper alternatives that you can get. Whether you are happy to buy pencils that are a copy of somebody else, I've wondered a little bit about this myself, and then I think, well, they have copied the colours, but the feel of the pencil is different, and some of the colours aren't maybe as close as they could be. The names may be different or whatever. You know, it's a little bit of a dilemma, really. You know, if someone brought out a colouring book that was a copy of someone else's, but they just redrawn the pictures, is that bad? Is it good? It's hard, isn't it? Maybe some of you will go, no, you shouldn't, and some of you go, well, you know, I don't know. I'm using the brown now. This is quite a reddish colour, and I'm going to do a little layer just inside that darker bit, just to extend that colour. I think it's a bit of a I'm not sure. Yeah, anyway, so that's the colour wise, but that's only the pastel set part bits, and they haven't actually got all of them. So they've copied some of the colours they have in the macaron, for example, are a little bit dark. They're not really purely pastel. But also, it's worth remembering that Prismacolor, which are soft as well, like these, if it's the softness that you're after, they have a quite a good pastel selection as well. So you could potentially get it from there. Now, in the UK, Prismacolor are actually quite expensive, which does surprise people actually. And probably even more so at the moment if we can get them at all. But we had this problem too, getting things from the EU as well. Sometimes they're a bit expensive. But surprisingly, our own British brand, Derwent, is extremely expensive for what it is, in my opinion. We're back to our khaki. Just going to go over it all, just to sort of burnish it up, mix it together, that sort of thing. So yes, our own British brand is expensive. So, you know, I actually think that the polychromos are cheaper than Derwents, I think, depending on the Derwent, because obviously there are different types. And, you know, Derwents are made in England, of course. Yeah, and we have to pay the import duty on the German ones, but they're still cheaper. So, you know, it's worth having a little look around and see what you can find. Now we're going to do these lovely florals. I'm thinking about the colour of them in lieu of the bird. What am I doing with the bird? I sort of want them to match, even though they just wouldn't. Now these look a bit like cherry blossom to me, but I want to do something a bit more vibrant today. So if you want to do a cherry blossom and you are using your Holbein, sorry words, there is a cherry blossom colour and it's perfect. So you could just pick that from the pastel set. There's a cherry blossom, it's lovely. But I'm going to do something, as I say, I want something a bit more vibrant. In fact, significantly more vibrant. We're going to do the centres first though. And I'm going to grab a vibrant yellow for those, if I can get it out of the case. Here it is, the dandelion. Now what would I say would put these at an advantage over Prismacolor? Well, I feel that the colour range is slightly better. Now we have 12 greys in this set. In Prismacolor we have more than that. So sometimes I feel that I wouldn't use all those greys. So that is one thing. And there are other colour areas. It's got a few too many browny greens, which I'm not so keen on, as has Derwent actually, to be fair. It's got a nice range of purples, pinks, blues, greens. You know, it's got a lot of reddish browns, which again, it's not my favourite colour, but you know, some people like them. I'm going to use what's that colour there? Magenta. I'm just looking at my swatch to see if that's actually what I want. No, I want the strawberry. Now I've got the strawberry in my reddish section, but it's actually quite pink. And I rather like it, so that's what I'm going to use. What else can I say about them? We do have a luminous section here. There's 6. I'm not really into luminous pencils, so I feel they're a little bit meh. It would have been nice if I'm trying to be a bit more intense near the centre and lighter towards the edge. I'm leaving a bit of white on the edge of each petal, and we're going to come back and add a second colour where we will just apply that to that edge. Okay. No, I'm more for things like, there's metallics as well. There's 6 metallics, and I do like the metallics, but I feel that maybe the metallics and the luminous or fluorescent colours should be in a separate pack, and we could have more general colours. You know, I would probably have more oranges and yellows than there are here, for example. Right, other advantages of Holbein just as a pencil. You can buy them open stock. You can in the UK now. Jackson's does them open stock. I'm an affiliate, I'd better just clarify that. You can buy them from their shops. They've only got 3 in I think, but you can buy them online from their website. I don't think Coloured Pencil Shop, which is where I buy my Prismas, I don't think she stocks them. But as I say, Jackson's does, so you can buy them. They're very expensive, as we've already established many times. So you can replace them, which is something. They are quite a thick pencil, which I think gives some protection to the pencil. I quite like a thicker pencil to hold. That might not be something that you think about, or it might not be something that you care about, but I feel that sometimes if you have like a arthritis or a tremor or something, that possibly could impact how you respond to the thickness of a pencil. I don't know, I'm guessing here because I don't really know. I'm going to layer up more around the centre of the flowers. But they're quite thick, as I say. I tend to sharpen them to quite a small point. I used to like a really long point sharpening pencil, and I realised it just very often breaks off. So I tend to sharpen to a smaller point with my Tagal sharpener. It works very well. Now I'm going to go for a more pastel-y tone to finish this off, and I'm just trying to choose one that looks quite similar to the strawberry, which is a very reddy pink. And I think the Cosmos will probably work quite nicely. Or I was almost tempted to grab one of the luminous ones then, because the luminous rose, but it's not going to give me the look I'm after. So here's the Cosmos. Give it a sharpen and just put it on the edges. I think what I'm going to do is not just put it on the edges, I'm going to put it all over and just sort of try and spread the colour to the tip with it, and it will burnish all that colour. The Holbeins do need a few layers. I mean, you can press down hard, but I don't tend to do that. When you first put them down, you can see the paper through, and I think that's just the way a soft pencil tends to be. But it gives you the opportunity to layer up a little bit and to smush those colours. They does smush like a Prisma does, rather than just layering like the harder pencils, polychromos do. So it's a bit of a learning curve for me. Although I've had my Prismacolors a long time, I still feel more comfortable with a hard pencil. But I'm beginning to get more used to the different techniques with a softer pencil. So don't buy them thinking, oh, they're expensive, so I'm going to become the best artist in the world if I buy them. No. Unless you're already used to soft pencils, you'll have a learning curve, and you might end up taking a lot of steps back before you go forward, if you know what I mean. Right, we are going to do these little berries. I want to use a sort of really bright purpley colour. The iris is very pretty. It's getting shorter, this one. Not short, my pencils are still very long, but compared to the others. So I've got one here that's really short. Oh, I know why. It's because I bought a few Holbeins to try them out, a few open stock, and that one was one of them. I'm using up the one that I bought rather than the new one that came in my big set, which I was gifted. Amazing gift. So still, as I say, still learning. Because I have lots of sets of pencils, as many of us do, it takes longer to learn because you're moving between sets all the time. So if you're like me, so then you don't get time to get a grasp on one before you move to another. I'm going to use the holly green for the leaves. I might add a darker one after, just give it a sharpen. Here it is, holly green. Oh, you can't see it there. Holly green. So the technique that I'm using here, it looks really similar to what I use with my harder pencils. So I'm making it darker at the bottom and I'm going to use another colour. But when I actually work the pencil on the paper, that's where my technique differs. Not in this initial stage, but because, well, a little bit. With the harder pencils, because you have to layer them to get the colour, the difference in colour, I couldn't do this because all this white would just be filled by the lighter pencil and it would almost look like I've got a line around here where I change colour. If I was doing a hard pencil, I would fade it much more carefully like that. But I don't need to with this one because it will smush out when my other colour will smush it if I apply it in the correct way. So if I apply it over this darker area first, it will push some of this pencil outwards as I move towards the edge. So it's a bit of a different technique, and it just takes a bit of learning. And I know some people, so I gather in videos, so I've been told, they'll just apply the tiniest bit of colour and then smush it out, maybe with a blender, you know, and then you save a lot of pencil, but it's not going to be as vibrant. I think I would find that a little tiresome, to be honest, myself, on a personal level, to have to keep swapping all the time, you know. But each to their own, really. We all have different ways of doing things. So value for money is always a big question. First thing is to look at the cost and remember that often, depending on where you are, is that the one I was going to go for? Yeah, I'm going to use the summer green to finish these off. So I'm going to go right over what I've done and then just drag it out towards the edge. When you look at the price, if you're on Amazon or something, be careful because there may be an import duty that you have to pay when it gets to your end, and you may have to pay that to the courier company before you can collect your parcel. Now, there's two words of caution about this. I don't know if this happens in other countries, but in the UK, we often get spam mails saying, oh, you've got a parcel, pay this money, and it's not true. And so if you order them and then you get one of these emails, you might either just ignore it completely, or you may worry that it's not real. So you need to be aware of that, and I'm sure there's ways to check if it's real. You could phone the company, the courier, the shipping company, and check, and things like that. But there is that duty, and calculating the duty isn't easy. I tried to do it on something that I imported, and I got it very, very wrong in a bad way. I thought it would be 10% of the cost it was. Eek. So you do need to be careful, because I tried looking it up on our government's website and doing all the maths, and I obviously did it very wrongly. So that's that. So it's worth trying to find out beforehand, and there may not be any duty, but it's worth checking. And of course there's also postage, as there is with most items, and I think we're more aware of the postage costs really, so that's okay. And in the UK I haven't been charged duty from any country apart from Japan, which is really interesting. Nowhere else. So I don't know why that is, whether, just looking for my brush, whether, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know why. I'm not going to try and guess, I just don't know. Okay, now we're going to move on to our bird. We've been very wonky, haven't we? Now, colour of our bird. Well, we could do him in a brown, in a grey, or we could do him in lots of bright mixed colours. I think, excuse me, because we've got a nice selection of pastels, I might try some light greys and light browns and just see how it looks, just because I can. I'm going to have a little play. So we have a beige. I don't know about the cork, it's a little bit pink. I'm going to grab out, I think, I think that's the sand. No, that's the beige, that must be the sand. So these are very light, you can see that. And they may just look a bit too wishy-washy by the time I finished. But I'm going to have a little play with them anyway and see what happens. The sand is really light. I'm tempted to just put a layer of sand all over. Oh, no, I know what we'll do. We'll do sand here on the chest. So I'm going to try and reduce the colour a bit to the edge of these little curves. So darker in there, so darker up at the top here, and then lighter down like that. And I'm thinking maybe we'll do different bits of the bird in slightly different shades. I think that'll work better. And I think having quite a pale belly is actually quite cute and could be the way to go. So maybe we'll use some slightly darker colours for the rest. Often birds, see, robins have quite sort of grey bellies, I think, and pigeons are grey. But some birds have white, some have yellow bellies, they're called, or some of the, I think great tits have yellow bellies too. So, and pied wagtails do. But this one isn't yellow. It looks quite fluffy the way she's drawn it, isn't it? Okay, now this other light one I think I'm going to use just in one small area and then I'm going to go darker. So maybe I'm not going to do exactly what I said. So this, as I said, is the beige and I'm going to use it around the eye. I don't know why, I just feel that this area might be a little bit lighter. But this is a slightly darker colour, as you can see as it goes down. There he is. Yeah. Now, what should we use? Let's have a little look. Oh, we could go for the tan. That's a slightly, it's not too dark. There it is. Oops, just trying to grab. So tan. And I think I'm going to continue round on the head area. So we'll come out from the beak here. Yeah. Sorry, I just looked on the screen to see how it was looking. Quite happy with it so far. So I'm making it a bit darker at each end, a bit lighter there. You could make it, try to colour more of a feathery look, but I've decided not to do that for this particular one. I don't know why. I think I'm also going to use, is that, yeah, just for this bit here, and I'm going to end there. Okay, and I'm going to try and build up more layers of colour at the top there and sort of fade it down a bit. There we go. Yeah, I thought this was a bit orangey, but it's not really. Not in, it doesn't sort of look to draw the eye in that sense, you know. Sometimes an orangey brown can be a bit over the top. It depends what you're trying to use it for, of course. An autumn leaf, it's fine. There we go. I think I'll leave it there for now. Probably pick another colour. Thinking the raw umber. Oops. Here it is, raw umber. And I will do that for this bit in here. I think it might be a little bit greeny. No, it's okay. That's good. I'm a little bit concerned as to what colour it actually was. I have got my swatch chart in front of me, but I've had experience of a swatch chart fading the other day. I noticed it had faded, so now I'm a little bit, you know, careful, shall we say, to make sure. Okay, now what brown next? I'm not going to use the olive brown. I think that's going to be too green, so we're going to move to a conventional brown, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go with the chocolate. So we're going really dark now, and I think it could have a darker wing. I think it might make sense. So here it is, the chocolate. But I'm also going to do this last bit of face and then the whole wing with this, I think. So a bit here. I'm going to make that lighter in the middle. I just make it look a little bit shiny because feathers can be. And then this one I'm just going to fade to the bottom. My brain keeps telling me it's Sunday today, and it isn't. It's Saturday. Now these, I'm going to do the same as the ones above, so fade to the tip. This little one is very small, so I'm not putting pressure on myself to make it really look too amazing. Yeah, it's very odd, but it just feels like Sunday. I mean, now we have these sort of 4-day weekends at the moment. It's quite confusing because husband only works, or husband and son both work Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So then we have this sort of, my other son is still on uni holiday, so we just have this long old weekend and it can get a bit confusing, but I'm glad of having an extra. I didn't get any work done yesterday. There was just different things happening. Nothing bad, nothing, you know. There was just, you know, people were up late, so I had to sort of wait and didn't want to be recording when people were up and down the stairs and probably calling me and, you know, that sort of thing. And then I had a few other jobs to do, and then people went out and I knew they wouldn't be long. When they came in, they'd want to talk to me, you know, all sorts of different things on and off. So this bit I'm just going to colour as one whole bit. So I just didn't get anything done, but this morning I got a couple of videos done, and then hopefully get this page done this afternoon, so be back on track, so that'll be good. I've also been sorting out my desk and my backup discs and all that sort of boring stuff we have to do from time to time. Also did the cleaning this morning, so got quite a lot of different bits and pieces done already. Been very productive, which is always nice. It's always nice to have a productive day, I think. Just to know that even if the things you're doing aren't mega important, just to think you've done some things, you know, not every day. Some days you need a rest, but you know, there we go. And I'm going to use the sepia as our last brown. I think he looks very smart. I mean, you might prefer to do a bird that was more brightly coloured, or to copy the design of a real bird. Obviously there's no real bird that looks these colours, but I'm just having fun doing it nice, warm. Now, we don't often use lots of browns, do we? Now that bit on the top of the beak, I'm sort of contemplating whether to do it black or what colour. I can't remember what it's called. I used to know. My budgie used to have one, and his was blue, who showed that he was a boy. It's blue for a boy. But I don't know whether other breeds of bird have different colours and things like that. I just don't really know much about them. So we always had male budgies, male birds. Interesting. Why my parents always chose males. Or maybe, I suppose, the breeders they bought them from may have only sold the males. They might have hung on to the females for breeding. Possibly. So I've sharpened my pencil because I'm going to put a little bit of a darker line down here and down here. I just want to separate off those groups of feathers a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so I think the bit on the nose I might do, we've got like a French grey, not really dark brown, warm grey. I'm going to try warm grey 6, but my swatch is quite faint, but I haven't done a very good one, to be honest. Here we are, warm grey 6 or number 6. They have a little hashtag. I'm going to make this quite thick because I feel that it should be sort of shiny. Now, lastly, beak and legs. I'm actually going to do in the mustard. She says getting out the yellow ochre. I think, let me look. Yeah, I do want the mustard. Oh dear, confused. Here we are, mustard. If it doesn't look bright enough, I can always go over it with a lighter yellow, but I think it might just work. Let's start with the little legs. I'm blocking these in rather than doing any shading because of the fact that they're yellow. Now, I know that birds' legs are usually pink, not yellow, but and some are black and some are blue, and you know, but hey. Right, I'm going to do a little tiny bit of shadow on our beak if it will work. So I've grabbed the tan, and underneath, so where the top and bottom beaks meet, just underneath there, I'm going to try and put in a bit of shadow, but I think I may have pressed a bit too hard. Oh no, we've got a bit there, that's worked. And then maybe a little bit just on the lower parts of the feet and where they're near the body, like that, just to give it a little bit more interest. Now let's just rub that off. There, I'm happy with him. I'll show you the whole picture just because I can. So there is our first bird. My plan is to do the next one differently, so it won't be in browns. I haven't quite decided what. I've got a few ideas, but I'm going to keep them to myself in case I change my mind. You know what I'm like. And we'll see what comes when I make the next video. But for today, that is me done. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy colouring.